This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to a new edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Maura Donnelly, an associate of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Our usual host, Charlie Greenwald, is on assignment, so I'm very fortunate today to have Jerry Strittmatter with us. Thank you.
Hi, Maura.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much. I look forward to it.
Well, it's budget season, as you know, in Pennsylvania, and a lot of people want a piece of the pie, right?
It's very important.
It's very important.
Yeah, very important.
So today we're going to talk about higher education, and for that we are fortunate to have with us a longstanding guest, knowledgeable in this area, Dr. Ken Mash, who is the president of APSCUF. Welcome.
Hi, Maura. It's great to be here. Jerry, it's good to see you again.
So I know that the governor has proposed some additional money for higher education. I also know that it might not exactly be what you're looking for. So you want to kind of walk us through what you asked for in the budget hearings, what you're looking for, where things stand.
Sure. So the governor, he presented a budget that had a 2% increase for the state system.
And it's about 11 million?
I think that's about right.
Okay.
But the issue was that was a number for us that really wouldn't keep pace with inflation. We have multiple unions actually that are negotiating contracts. On top of that, the Board of Governors has for the last several years kept tuition flat. So that really it wouldn't be possible to keep tuition flat given the 2%. And then on top of that, it's not even clear beyond that we would be able to balance the books, and we'd have to take dramatic action. And some of our universities are also already carrying what we call legacy debt, which is debt that goes back years and years from building projects and things like that. So we always want what's best for the students and for them to have a full array of programs and faculty and get the services that they need to do well, and we were concerned about that. The bright spot about that, though, is that the governor was very clear that that was a starting point. And we took that seriously to say, okay, this is my number, but that doesn't mean it's the final number. We're now going to turn it over to the legislature to see what happens.
And because the system does such a good job, and because it's all across the Commonwealth, so many legislators, you have many champions who always step up because you deserve it. And so you can sort of count on those champions of making sure that everyone knows what's going on, correct?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate to have bipartisan support for the system. Of course, everybody, people are concerned about the budget and balancing the budget and doing the rest, but I think increasingly it's understood too that the numbers, when they just come out, and SHIO does this survey of the states every year, and we're at the bottom of every level when it comes to funding. And that's like whether you're looking at it per student, whether you're looking at it per capita as far as the state goes, we are, the Pennsylvania is far below every other state except maybe one. So we need to do some things to make it better so that we can attract students to come into the Commonwealth so that they stay in the Commonwealth, and that we continue to do the best we can for Pennsylvanians.
And the governor seems to be saying the same thing. He wants to make sure that that he's not just giving the money, but that, I don't know whether I would call it a transformation, but he wants to look at the whole system and make sure that it's working effectively and efficiently, and
Right. So
that's been done though. So
it's been that's two different things.
I know.
The state system of higher ed is really part of many different systems in Pennsylvania and private schools, and there's an array. And I think the governor's intent is to say, hey, this is kind of legacy. It kind of evolved this way. Are we doing it the best way that we possibly can? So I think that's his approach. But you're absolutely right. And for my members, for me, I've been at this for far too long. At this point, we've been through study after study after study. And at
I'm
some
sure our
point,
viewers remember us talking about these over the years.
So, as you're doing that again and again, at some point it does come down to the money, right? Is the money there to support the institutions that you need to have in order to be successful? And we do have a lot of universities and colleges in Pennsylvania, but I remember Tom Wolfe saying clearly, we treat that like it's a liability, but that really can be an asset for the Commonwealth, and I think that we need to start to appreciate that. Just one more word in support of the governor, in the sense that I think as a new administration, they're coming into thinking, all right, we have a very quick turnaround as far as budget goes.
First budget, yeah.
Right, first budget.
Yeah.
So we want to view this more over a 2-year period than just looking at 1 year. So we want to get by for the 1 year and then in the next year. The problem for us is the numbers just don't work like that.
Yeah.
And the governor, and what's good about this process is that the governor has the experience of being a House member before, going through the budget process, understanding that Pennsylvania is very diverse. The 203 House members are so different. The senators are so different because of the size when they get elected. So he understands that. So I would think what you said is very accurate, that I think it'd be positive. We have a successful program. Like in any business, you look at it every year. You do the SWOT analysis, to do it. And so that's what's happened with our state system, which has been very successful. Our Commonwealth depends, upon your system. And so it's just a matter of getting those champions out there and making sure that you're made whole.
Yeah. And, at this point, we're most concerned about our universities on the western part of the state. They have suffered really larger declines in enrollment than even the population would suggest that they should. And I think that's what the Board of Governors of the state system has been responsive to in trying to keep tuition flat, because we have to be affordable for students. Otherwise, you start doing these calculations, I'll put off going to college, or maybe there's an alternative that's not what I wanted to do or I think I would be successful of, but what I can afford. So, we're concerned about those universities, and particularly about the debt that they're carrying.
Were there any other programs that you were hoping to have funded that didn't make it into the governor's budget? I think there was a scholarship, I believe.
The chancellor was asking for scholarship funds,
Right.
Particularly geared at high demand areas. Like right now we have a teacher shortage, and to try and encourage teachers to come, social workers, nurses, to try and do that. And we are, I'll say the system is the most affordable option for doing that. So scholarships would make us even more attractive financially. And make it easier for students to get through. So we were concerned about that, and we are, as I've mentioned now a couple of times, the debt issue is a very real issue and really threatens the system as a whole, because if one of the two of the universities are in serious debt, creditors don't really care which university it is. They just want their money.
Right.
So they'll turn to the system, which means that you could wind up with the system having to drain funds from other universities in order to be able to pay back that debt. So it's a very serious thing for us. This is why we were happy the House introduced its budget bill, and in that budget bill it called for a 6% increase for the state system, which we were very happy about. But they also included a $30 million one-time to pay off debt at in those Western schools.
Oh.
So that would be a real game changer for
Right.
us. Now, of course, we're not naive. We understand there's a process, that just because the House passed something doesn't mean that that's the end result. But as Jerry brought up before, we do have bipartisan support.
Right.
So we're hoping that the Senate will also see that, this makes sense. We have to deal with this particular issue to make sure that we're in solid shape.
Now for our viewers, and especially the parents that have students that just graduated from high school and they're still making up that decision, like you say, basically in Western Pennsylvania say, what should be the contact?
So admissions is generally still a university by university task. So the best thing that you could do is to visit the website of the university that you want to attend. And you know, if it's Slippery Rock out west, certainly you could do that. We need to remember too that we have Penn West University now, which has the 3 campuses. So Edinburgh and Clarion and Cal. So you know, you'd have to go to the Penn West site to do that, but with the understanding that you could go to any one of those 3. And of course, Indiana University, Pennsylvania still continues to be this bright star that offers so much to students.
Well, with the Penn West, if they go to the old name, will it automatically
Redirect them.
if you start, or you know, everybody knows how to Google now. So if you Googled it and you Googled Edinburgh, you would be directed to
Okay,
Penn
great.
West.
What other issues is APSCUF working on?
So we have 2 bargaining units. We have the coaches and we have the faculty. We have a contract. Both units have contracts that are expire
At the
June
same time,
At the
yeah.
same time, June 30th. It's a very weird date. I think when it was that date originally came up, it was meant to fit in with the budget for the state.
But you need to know ahead.
It didn't, right. It became impractical, really.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm glad because I think in both of those negotiations we're making progress and it's being taken seriously by the parties. And so while there are a lot of issues and a lot of concerns and some difficulty also in dealing with some of the issues when you don't know what's going to be happening in the state budget, it's likely that we'll go past that date. Now that, you know, what will be the difference between June 30th and July 1st functionally? Nothing. Because we just work under the contract that we had before until there's a new contract.
So in the last minute, what other things would you like the viewers to know today?
I would like them to know that our universities are really top-notch universities that are affordable. You get a great education at them. And speaking for my colleagues, you will have, if you're an athlete, you'll have a fantastic coach who's hardworking and is in it for the love of the sport. And you have faculty who are dedicated to their students. And really, my colleagues will go way beyond the pale to make sure that their students succeed. And so we are
Yeah,
a
they
great
care about
deal.
the students.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, that's how you define yourself, really, as a faculty member, is through the success of your students. So, and because of the size of it, and it's really just a great place. And we have a long experience, particularly with first generation college students coming and doing well and really moving up and living the American dream. Right?
Yeah, that's great. In the past, we've seen students engaged in the legislative process. Are we going to see any of that this year?
I would imagine that if things go on too long, you'll start to see
We will.
things. I think there's a general sense that both in terms of our contract and in terms of what's going on in the legislature, that people are being serious about it. And I
is good.
think that that's kind of the cue to everyone that it's meant to be worked out and to be done in a fair way. So I'm not anticipating that at this point, but that doesn't mean it won't happen.
Well, we'd like to have you back once life calms down for you and see what other issues APSCUF is working on. We're very happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
It's always my pleasure, Mark.
Yes, thank you very much.